What's up, Crypto Knights? Derek here with you again for another long overdue news update, a little bit of talk about what's going on in the cryptocurrency space today. It's been pretty wild as of late. There's been a lot of really positive news, but there hasn't been a whole lot of positive response in the markets. That's kind of a theme that we've been playing out throughout this year and definitely over the past couple of months. But, you know, it's just one of those times in the market where this cycle needs to play itself out, and then we need to go ahead and start making higher lows and start getting out of this downtrend that we've been in. Just looking at the markets where they're at moving into this week, I do think that we're looking like we want to go higher. We may test a little bit lower again. We may go to the 6,100, the 6,000, maybe even test that 5,850 Bitcoin level again. But I do think that we saw a very healthy amount of volume come in when we hit that 5,850 level. Actually, we fell briefly below it, but only for a brief wick, and then a lot of the bots started buying and pushing that volume back up. So I think, you know, we don't really want to go too much lower, but there is still the potential in the markets for that to happen, and we need to be aware of that. Okay, so for me right now, it's kind of 50-50. Are we going to go higher? Are we going to go lower? And I know that's not what you want to hear from me or from anyone that's talking about cryptocurrency right now. What we want to hear, of course, is that, oh, we're going much higher, we've hit the bottom, the pain is over, all that kind of stuff. But you know, the reality is we can only look at where the markets are at and judge the markets based off of what they've been doing. We can look at all the good stories that are coming out and, you know, all the positive news and think that the market should be going higher, but it doesn't really matter what we think. It doesn't matter what emotions we bring into it or what we attach to it. What matters is what's actually happening in the market, and we have to be nimble and flexible and be able to adjust to what the market is doing. So with that said, I want to cover a topic with you today based off this TechCrunch story that just came out. Thousands of cryptocurrency projects are already dead. And that is a fact, okay? And I bring this up during, you know, the rough times in the market because a lot of these projects have died because of what's happened with the market since, you know, the highs back in December and January, when there were so many retail investors, so much money flooding into the space. And of course, all of that has dried up. There's very low liquidity in the markets right now. Some of these smaller altcoins, some of these ICOs that raised a lot of funds back in December, January, around that time, have no liquidity. No one's trading them. And, you know, some of them, many of them actually have died in theory. Now, what does it mean when a coin is dead? So TechCrunch, in this article, they reference two sites, Coinopsy and Dead Coins. These are two sites that track dead coins, projects that you know, range from true abandonware to outright scams, as this article says. So that means, you know, projects that have just been fully abandoned by the developers. There's no code updates. No one's updating in the wallets. There's no trading happening. It's not listed on any exchanges, etc., etc., etc. A lot of them are outright scams, right? Let's talk about BitConnect. BitConnect is the biggest and most obvious scam that took place in the cryptocurrency space as far as how much money BitConnect was actually able to get out of the greater cryptocurrency community. You know, how many people were sucked into this scheme and just how big it was when it blew up. If you remember, BitConnect, the coin was trading at over $400 back at the peak, and now it's trading at, I think, like 4 cents. Of course, there's no actual volume, so it is a dead coin. Okay, and so here's a look at the Coinopsy site, and this site here lists 255 total dead coins. And you know, you can take a look at the list here. It gives you a summary of what what happened with the project, abandoned, likely scam, low volume, neglected coin, scam coin, and the lifespan, right? So it'll show you how long it lasted. And then they'll also tell you the founders here. So, you want to look out for this. And this is one of the things that you will do research on if you're looking to invest in a new ICO or purchase a new cryptocurrency or whatever. You want to dig into the founders, dig into the team behind it, and make sure that they're not involved with any projects like this that were either scams or they were abandoned or whatever. Okay, there's two sides to every story, and of course you want to dig into what actually happened if you're looking at a project before just making a rash judgment and just reading whatever anyone says. Because if you do look online, you'll see people saying that every single project out there is a scam, including Bitcoin, including Ethereum, including everything else, because of the tribal nature of the cryptocurrency space and the fact that, people want to root for the home team. So, and there's a financial incentive involved. So when you add tribalism plus the financial aspect, things can get pretty dicey. People get very emotionally involved. So, if you're a big Ethereum fan, for example, you may go and say that EOS is a scam because of no real reason. Maybe you don't have an actual reason. You're just saying it because you're emotionally involved. Now, there's emotional arguments and then there's factual arguments. And what your job is as an investor, as someone that is taking part in this space and wants to do well for yourself, your job is to separate the emotional arguments, the tribal nature of people just kind of talking nonsense from the facts, okay? And it can be very difficult sometimes, and that's a big part of what I do and what Diggy and Mitch do with Keys to Freedom. We try to provide you with all that information from from the research that we've done and we do with our team here, and make sure that you have the best information to move forward. But you always want to, in the end, take everything collectively and make your own decision. Make a decision that you can sit with and that feels good for you. So there's also Dead Coins here, and Dead Coins is this one's been around for longer. I've been looking at this one for a long time, and they have over 1,000 coins on here. But there's the full list, and then there's like deceased coins, coins that have been hacked, coins that were an outright scam, and then parody coins, which are just a lot of coins that have been created and don't really exist. Like, of course, we remember Howie Coin. I talked about that previously on one of the episodes of KTF News. And there's all these parodies. But basically, the reason why I want to bring this up is because there's another article earlier this year that came out. This is from Bitcoin.com, that a study was released that said over 46% of last year's ICOs have already failed. Okay, so this is the big problem in the space right now when it comes to ICOs. And there's some very obvious exit scams. If you're not familiar with that term, an exit scam is basically when a cryptocurrency project, typically an ICO, they raise a bunch of funds and they make a lot of promises and they have this fancy roadmap and team and everything, and then they just kind of disappear. And that's an exit scam, right? They raise the funds and then they figure out some way to run away with all the money. And a lot of times they'll say they got hacked. They'll try to blame it on a former employee or whatever. There's all kinds of drama and stories behind it. But exit scams are a real thing. They have happened. There's been a couple notable ones, but they're not the most obvious of the problems here, or the most obvious symptom of the issues that exist with the ICO space right now. Beyond this 46% of last year's ICOs failing already, there's another recent survey, or I should say study, that came out and showed that over 70% of the ICOs that have raised funds and have been created throughout history so far have not been listed on an exchange. So over 70% of these cryptocurrencies have not been listed on an exchange, which means they have no liquidity, okay? There's nowhere that they're actually trading. So a lot of those will eventually, of course, be added to this list of thousands of cryptocurrency projects that are already dead. Many of them have already been added to the list of dead coins on one of these two websites because, while something may not be a scam outright, or something nefarious going on behind the scenes, the reality is if the project is not getting traded, there's no liquidity, and you as an investor that's holding that cryptocurrency can't go out there and sell it to somebody, well then basically the coin is dead. Okay, and that doesn't mean there can't be a zombie coin, right? Now, a zombie coin is a coin, that was dead and came back from the dead, and maybe it even goes further and starts eating up all the other coins that were competing with it. Whatever you want to, wherever you want to take that analogy to. But it doesn't mean there can't be zombie coins, and some of these projects might not be able to come back from the dead as it will. But this is a huge issue, and this is something that is really important to talk about in the cryptocurrency space. There are thousands and thousands of different cryptocurrency projects. They're getting launched left, right, and center. There's so many ICOs, and even though the markets have been rough this year, we've already more than doubled the total amount of funds that were raised in ICOs last year, and we're only halfway through the year, and we've been in a down market for a large part of 2018 so far. So going into Q3 and Q4, as I personally believe we're gonna turn a corner and get back into a much friendlier market, with prices starting to rise and the bulls starting to get more confidence and coming back into the market and volumes rising with it. As that happens, we may see the ICO craze go nuts again, like it was in Q4 of 2017. So with that in mind, I want to set the stage and let you know and just kind of talk about this, because there are so many different ICOs out there, and the reality is most of these cryptocurrencies don't really need to exist, okay? There's no actual reason for a lot of these tokens to exist beyond speculation, okay? Beyond the markets that exist, on exchanges and trading and all that kind of stuff. A lot of these projects don't actually have any solid tokenomics behind their token, and they don't, even worse, a lot of these projects have no actual business plan. Their business plan has basically just been to raise as much money as they can in an ICO, and then that's it. The business plan kind of stops there. They may have the fancy roadmap on their website and all that kind of stuff, but they don't really have a business plan. And this is a problem for a number of reasons. The most obvious is that if you don't really have a plan with what you're going to do with all the money that you've raised, well, you're very likely going to blow through that money, or even worse, in some of these cases, we have had exit scams and people that are just blatantly running scams. But if we're talking about projects that are legitimate and the people behind them, have a real purpose for what they're doing and they really believe in their project and all that, even all that said, there's danger still. Okay, and the danger is that a lot of these companies are startups, right? Pretty much all of them are startups. They're working on, creating something that is usually pretty bold, pretty revolutionary. The blockchain space is not very well developed so far. Of course, Bitcoin itself is only 9 years old, which, may sound like a long time, but it's really not a long time at all. In fact, it's gone by in the blink of an eye, and only in the past couple of years has it really garnered any type of mainstream attention, and just at the beginning levels of adoption when it comes to businesses and investors being interested in and supporting blockchain development and cryptocurrencies at large. So really, it's still very young. So all this is very new. So the problem here is, getting back to the point of raising money through ICOs, is it's great, but it also has some downsides, and we need to address those. Okay, so what happens is, if a project is a startup and they really haven't created anything yet, maybe they have a demo, or they've created a test net or a little bit of code. They don't have a whole lot to work with, and then suddenly they raise 30, 40, some of these projects are raising hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, there's there's a real benefit to being hungry as a startup, okay? And the founders of startups should try to remain hungry. As much as it's great for them financially to be able to raise this much money, there's the double-edged sword. And the fact is, when you raise that much money so quickly, it can be kind of difficult to actually make progress on your project. And a lot of these projects have raised a lot of money, but they haven't really done much development or really, put any of that money to good use as far as we can see. Okay, and that's the danger here. The other danger is that when you raise that kind of money up front and you are holding it in Ethereum. A lot of these ICOs raise in Ethereum, right? Most ICOs are run on the Ethereum platform as ERC20 tokens. So what happens is, say you were raising a bunch of funds back in December and January, and Ethereum was at $1,200 and you raised $30 million. Well, now Ethereum's down at like $400, $450. So the amount of money you raise has been cut in a third. You have a third of the money that you originally raised, and maybe you were making all kinds of plans, and you have employees and you have costs, of course, all these things of running your business, but you only have a third of the money you originally had. And I know that sounds kind of crazy to you, that people holding that kind of money would just hold it all in Ethereum and not have any kind of protection for downside risk or anything, but you'd be wrong. The reality is a lot of ICOs are doing just that. They were banking on the fact that, crypto is just going to keep going up. We're just going to hold it in Ethereum or maybe a couple of other digital assets. And, they didn't take out cash to protect that cash. And so a lot of projects are actually, they may have raised a lot of money, but now they may be struggling financially. And the problem is all of this kind of stuff wrapped around raising funds and what to do with those funds after you've raised them are distracting from what should be the main point for these companies, which is building their product and delivering on the promises that they made to potential investors when they originally did their ICO. Okay, so there needs to be more attention paid to this. And I know there are companies that are doing this now, that are popping up to serve as either financial advisors or direct fund managers for companies that raise money in ICOs. Because if you look at any publicly traded company, like if you look at an Apple or Facebook or whatever, they don't keep all their money in the bank, right? They don't keep just cash. They invest in other companies, they invest in funds, they do all kinds of things to protect what they've earned, okay? And a lot of these companies aren't doing that, and they don't know how to. That's the thing that I'm trying to get across here and what we're talking about. A lot of these projects are, really smart people behind them, and they've got great ideas, but being a developer, being an idea guy, for example, or a visionary, and then running a business can be two very different things, especially when you're talking about handling large amounts of money that you're intending to build your business on over a period of years. Okay, and so those are some of the main issues that I see right now. Number one, of course, is just overload. There's likely way too many ICOs right now. A lot of projects trying to create tokens just for the sake of creating tokens. When you actually look at what they're doing, there's no purpose for having a token. It doesn't really fit from my outlook of why you would need to create a token. And they're all over. And I know I'm not the first person to say that, and lots of people are talking about this. So we've got an overload. We've got too many cryptocurrencies. And again, I want to stress the point that all of this is fine, okay? I'm not calling for the heads of ICO promoters or people that are starting these companies. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be ICOs or that there should be more regulation or anything of the sort. I don't believe in that. I believe the industry is self-regulating itself, and it's starting to happen more and more, which is why you're seeing all of these dead coins, okay? The industry is speaking, especially in times like where we're at now, okay? When the market is really struggling and there's low liquidity, there's not a lot of interest, not a lot of new money coming in. Well, the projects with the weakest standing, with the weakest foothold, are going to suffer the most, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of those projects, if you get an extended bear market, let's say for the sake of just, looking at all possible outcomes, what if the cryptocurrency space does stay down in this range for another 5-6 months or even longer? Well, I can promise you a lot of the ICOs that happened in 2017 that were not the best projects and don't have a whole lot of meat on the bone, if you will, they're going to suffer, and a lot of them are going to go under, okay? Because the thing about this is if you look at these dead coin sites, a lot of them are just low volume, right? It's simply there's just nobody trading them anymore because everybody lost interest. And that's the big risk that you have as a developer. If you raise a lot of money and you release a token, and then let's say your token doesn't get listed on good exchanges or whatever happens, and the value of that token craters, and then of course all the investors are going to get upset. People are going to start talking all kinds of shit about your project. There's going to be a lot of negativity all around, all over, whether it's Reddit, Twitter, whatever, wherever crypto people are at, there's going to be a lot of negativity, and that is going to affect your project. And that's the unfortunate thing, okay? Because you may be building great technology and have a great project, an awesome idea and all that, but if your token craters in value and then it doesn't go back up, well, your project's going to die because people are going to lose faith, even if the tech is great and all of that. So there is this double-edged sword of ICOs, and that's what I want to talk about today. Are ICOs dead? I don't believe so. Obviously, look at all of the funds that are coming in. Again, like I said earlier, we've raised more than double the amount that was raised in 2017, which was a large amount of money. I think we're at about $12 billion in total funds raised for ICOs in 2018 so far, even though most of this year we've been in a struggling market, as I said. So I don't think ICOs are dead. I do think, and we can very clearly see that they are starting to go the way of being more private sales. VC funds are stepping in, crypto hedge funds are stepping in. A lot of these ICOs are only taking on groups of private investors. And yeah, I mean, I think that's going to continue. We're also seeing security tokens step on the scene with tZERO and Polymath and what they're working on, and other locations around the world. And so I think securities tokens are the next big thing, and that's going to change the industry a whole lot. Okay, so I don't think ICOs are dead. I think overall this is all good. Okay, I don't want anyone to lose money. I don't want to lose money. I don't want you to lose money. But the thing about it is, this is the wild, wild west, okay? You and I, we're all involved in a completely revolutionary technology, but even more than that, a revolutionary idea, okay? The idea of decentralization, what Bitcoin did, what Satoshi Nakamoto came up with, and there were other people before him, or they, or whoever, whoever Satoshi is, that also had this vision, and we're just kind of waiting for the right technology to present itself. But the vision of decentralization, of the end of the fiat monetary system with central banks just printing currency at the flick of a switch, and just having complete and total control over our wealth, our savings, and our ability to feed our families and do what we want to do in life, that is ending, okay? But it's not going to end easily, and it's not going to end quickly. It's going to take time. And all of this right now is just one giant, amazing experience that we're having, okay? So keep that in mind. There's going to be a lot of growing pains, and I wanted to make this video mostly just to make you aware of this and cover this. It's easy, very, very easy in the bull market. Back in December and January, you could have really just thrown a dart at a board, and any crypto you would have hit could have gotten you great returns, even if it was an outright scam like BitConnect. Okay, BitConnect made a lot of people a lot of money that got out before it all went up in flames, but it was still a scam the whole time. Okay, so the important thing to remember is that you need to really be on top of doing due diligence and really dig into any project you're going to invest in. And even if you get it all right, the team's great, the project sounds great, it checks all the boxes, it's still a very early stage startup in a very early stage technology that's really just starting to make little ripples in the universe, but is going to make huge waves in the future, waves that will engulf the banking system, the insurance industry, and everything else where a trusted intermediary sits on the top of the pyramid right now. Okay, so thanks for checking out this video. Leave me a comment below. Do you think ICOs are dead? Do you think there's just way too many cryptocurrencies out here right now? What do you think is the future of ICOs and of tokens? Are we going to have many, many more? Are we only going to have a few successful ones and the rest just kind of go the way of these dead coins? Or just share your thoughts down below, and go ahead and subscribe to this video, give it a thumbs up, and make sure to click the notification bell so that you can get notified every time we upload a new video here on the Keys to Freedom channel. So with that, I'll talk to you again real soon, and peace.